can't make Riley feel anything.
What have we done?
Inside Out 2 recently premiered in theaters, continuing the story of Riley Anderson and the emotions who watch over her. The sequel takes place 2 years after the original film, when Riley is older and about to begin a new chapter in her life, high school. The film explores complex emotions, the sense of self, and how anxiety can warp someone's perceptions and influence their actions. As the franchise continues its narratives about mental health and emotional intelligence, many fans wonder what could be next for Riley. The answer may lie within one of the franchise's scrapped characters who never made his full debut in the original Inside Out. In today's video, we'll discuss Gloom and how he can impact the franchise moving forward.
Island? Everyone shut up.
Boy band island. Hope that's just a phase.
Say what you want. I think it's all beautiful.
When the original Inside Out premiered in 2015, Pixar and Disney fans met new characters in the Pixar universe with a unique and never explored before premise: human emotion. The film introduces the audience to the 12-year-old Riley Anderson, who moves to San Francisco from Minnesota with her parents. The move required her to leave behind her friends, hockey team, and childhood home, all events that would be incredibly stressful for a child. The other main characters include Riley's core 5 emotions, which watch over Riley from within her mind's headquarters: joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. The heart of the film lies in the struggle between joy and sadness. As a cheerful and carefree child, Riley is pressured constantly to maintain a happy facade. In her attempt to manage Riley's emotions, Joy goes to great lengths to suppress sadness, hindering Riley's ability to cope with the life-altering experience of moving. This internal conflict sets the stage for the emotional journey that follows. Eventually, sadness and joy find themselves stranded within Riley's mind with her core memories, and they must work together to return home. Along the way, they learn to understand, trust, and accept one another. However, in their absence, Riley can only depend on fear, anger, and disgust about moving to San Francisco, and Riley decides to run away from home and return to Minnesota. However, as Riley boards the bus to leave, her emotions realize she is making a mistake. Then a dark shadow overtakes the control board, rendering them incapable of reaching Riley or influencing her actions.
Yeah, it gets pretty cold. The lake freezes over, and that's when we play hockey. I'm on a great team. We're called the Prairie Dogs.
The darkened control panel represents the presence of the film's unnamed and invisible antagonist, Gloom. Gloom was the original antagonist of the film during its early drafts. Like a direct opposite to Joy, his primary purpose is to make someone feel insensitive and emotionless, as Riley does when she boards the bus for San Francisco, unable to connect with and feel her emotions. Gloom was meant to grow in strength and size with his presence in Riley's mind, appearing like a looming, shadowy figure. One of his concept designs included personifying him like the other emotions, giving him a gray and dark color scheme, complete with a suit and melancholic expression. His early concepts are available in the official The Art of Inside Out book. Gloom is a character scrapped throughout the film's production and doesn't have a physical presence in the final cut. However, his impact and power are still referenced when headquarters is cast in shadow, and the control panel becomes unusable. It's worth mentioning that Gloom wasn't the only character scrapped during production, because one of them, Envy, becomes a main character in Inside Out 2. The sequel removes Gloom's presence entirely by personifying Riley's anxiety and giving the story a visible and sympathetic antagonist. Throughout the film, Anxiety's sole purpose is to protect Riley, but she does so in self-destructive and harmful ways. Anxiety commits many acts against Riley that would be detrimental to her mental health. Some examples of her behavior include throwing Riley's sense of self out, repressing the core 5 emotions, abandoning Bree and Grace, forcing mind workers to create an endless stream of anxious thoughts, throwing the hockey game, and causing Riley to have a panic attack. Anyone who experiences anxiety knows it's a worthy contender against them, even without the assistance of otherwise gloomy feelings.
We don't get to choose who Riley is.
Joy and the others are determined to stop anxiety from hurting Riley or altering her life further, allowing the second film to have an entirely separate and active antagonist. However, the Inside Out franchise is dedicated to the message that every emotion has a purpose and none are inherently good or bad. By the end of the sequel, Joy convinces Anxiety to let her control over Riley go, allowing the old and new emotions to coexist. However, Riley likely isn't done finding new sides to herself, and that will likely be the theme of the third film as she continues growing up and discovering more complex emotions. As previously planned emotions from the original Inside Out concept debuted in the sequel, the other scrapped characters will likely enter the franchise eventually. Gloom should be one of these new characters, as he takes on a physical form to work alongside the core five, perhaps presenting himself as something else entirely to gain their trust. As Gloom uses the control panel, Riley becomes more melancholic and despondent, similar to her behavior in the original film. However, some of these symptoms are synonymous with sadness, which may turn the other emotions against her for a brief moment, before they realize someone else is working against them. The conflict can help bring awareness to the difference between sadness and depression, the role of each, and how they impact a person. In addition to negatively impacting sadness, gloom could take a toll on joy. There's a popular theory that many emotions represent the other's opposite. However, joy doesn't have an opposite emotion, with only 4 new primary emotions. Gloom could assume this role as the pair enter an intense competition to keep Riley feeling a certain way. Gloom may also impact Joy, sapping her happiness and optimism throughout the film, making her the thing within Riley's mind that the other emotions have to save.
Crying helps me slow down and obsess over the weight of life's problems.
The last emotion that Gloom can significantly impact is anxiety. During the sequel, she anticipates every adverse event that could happen in the future and tries to protect Riley from encountering them. Like the other emotions, her sole motivation is to protect Riley, keeping her from harmful experiences. Joy and the others learn ways to cope with anxiety, listening to her concerns and suggestions while also helping her relax and keep an open mind. Unfortunately, witnessing how gloom impacts Riley, preventing her from enjoying anything in her daily life, may have anxiety reaching for the control panel again in the third film. If the only emotions influencing Riley become anxiety and gloom, then she would become downright miserable, which is precisely what he wants. He could use anxiety to achieve his goals, potentially manipulating her into believing Riley needs her more than the others, or that Riley may fall into more profound despair without remaining aware of what could happen next. Unknown to her, anxiety could become a puppet for Gloom, doing his bidding and causing more harm than good before she realizes his true intentions and turns against him. Currently, it's unknown if Gloom can peacefully live in headquarters with the other emotions or if he'll need to flee into the recesses of Riley's mind, waiting for the next moment in her life when he can impact her the most. It's possible that after his official debut, Gloom may become the franchise's primary antagonist, arriving at opportune times to make Riley struggle whenever she's feeling particularly sad, anxious, or angry. However, as the theme of Inside Out remains that all emotions are valid and have an intended purpose, Gloom may have a generous way of impacting Riley. For example, Riley wouldn't be able to appreciate joy and happiness as intensely as she does without gloomy moments. A similar occurrence happens in the sequel, where Riley feels intense relief after her anxiety attack, and Joy returns to the control panel. It's possible that when Gloom arrives, he intends to have his plans foiled by the others. The third film's plot can follow this premise as Gloom debuts, causes trouble for Riley, and is continuously foiled by Joy and the other emotions. While they may begin to view Gloom as an antagonist and someone undeserving of trust, they may realize in the end that he wants the same thing as them, the best for Riley.
No one. She eats alone and only the teachers know her name.
Okay, you and I are gonna be friends.
If the franchise decides to branch into more films, Inside Out 3 likely won't premiere in theaters for several years. During that time, Riley's personality, emotions, and emotional struggles may grow more complex, creating the perfect atmosphere for Gloom to make his debut. Currently, little information is known about the scrapped character aside from his shadowy presence and powers. However, the brief design is enough to make assumptions about how he could help or harm Riley when the time comes.
You just aren't what she needs anymore, Joy.
How dare you, madam!
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications to stay updated on our uploads.
Oh, here's one where she waved at a guy who was actually waving at a girl behind her.
Oh, that was so bad.